Peace, peace, peace. Mind Ascension back at it, part 2. I'm still here with my brother Los right here. And we're going to go back at it. Los, where was we at,
So, I guess another question that I have is, at what point did they take over? Being that we were so smart, we were so strong, how did they just infiltrate? How did they just come in and take over? How?
Well, once again, I touched on that tonight at the meeting. But the bottom line is, number one, I always say this. Anybody that knows Mind Ascension, I always say, our humanity, brother, is our greatest captivity. Because we have this need to love everybody. We have this need to embrace everyone as our family and as our brothers. But what we don't understand is we don't want to face the absolute fact that you cannot bring a wolf or a lion in your home, dress them in pajamas, sit them at the table, and civilize.
But that's my thing, though. Like, we were so smart, we should know all of that already.
Well, we did. Well, okay. Well, let me give it to you the way I know you want it. It's an absolute fact that we had what was called immigration laws in Egypt. We literally knew that the Greeks, the Romans, and all these different versions of Nordic people were of savage and barbaric practices. This is why we literally had laws to keep them out. So don't ever get it twisted and think that, you know, we was always trying to hold hands with them and defeat it. Not only that, always remember that we went through millenniums and centuries of wars, keeping them out. By the way, going into Manar Patah, now here's the European way to spell it, but Merna Patah, Ptah. Manar Patah, if you look up Manar Patah, he's a pharaoh from around the 3rd dynasty. Now Manar Patah fought back a lot of the Asiatic invaders. He decimated many armies, but here, once again, here comes our humanity being our captivity, because we never committed genocide against anybody. So every time we defeated their armies, we allowed them to go back where they came from. And not only that, by the way, we allowed the ones who submitted to our rule to stay. And we gave them what's called provinces around the kingdom. One of those provinces is called Libya today. So we gave them pieces of land outside of the kingdom to stay if they chose to abide by the laws of what's called Ma'at. And this is a big problem for us because, remember, they never stopped invading. And you know what? I don't blame them, because when you're coming from the Caucasus Mountains, when you're coming from an area with no vegetation, with constant famine, no sunlight, okay? You really mean to tell me that you know a kingdom over here exists where there's abundance, where there's constant vegetation, constant food, animal kingdom, and you're going to stay out of there because they said stay out, and you over here starving? So this is why those invasions always came in succession. They never stopped until eventually they penetrated and they was able to rule, which the first penetration was the Hyksos in 1675. So don't get it twisted and think that we never fought back or we never defeated them. As a matter of fact, the Kushite army was known to be the most powerful army in the world. As a matter of fact, the Kushites settled in this Kush Valley that we are calling India today. See, we are using the terms that the European has given us in a modern sense, but we're forgetting the original names of these places that was settled by Kushites or by Nubians. Kushites and Nubians settled the Mediterranean. They settled southern Europe, where you have the Minoan civilization, you have the Crete civilization. Etruscans were the first people of Italy and Sicily. This is why when you look at an Italian or Sicilian, they still got your black ass in them. You see what I'm saying?
There's the black Italians.
Yes, absolutely.
Very dark skin,
yes.
beautiful green.
Because once again, just like I said earlier, it's very difficult to breed us out completely. And even when you try, you're only left with light skin, but still dark brown eyes, still dark brown hair. Sometimes the hair is so damn thick. That's why they used to call Italians grease balls. Because Italians, if they didn't grease their hair, you would see the kink in it. So they would grease their hair so thick to try to hide that 9 ether or that 7 ether that was coming to the surface. So my main point is, don't ever believe that they just waltzed in somewhere and we were just so weak and docile that they just took us over. No, it took centuries upon consistent invasions. It took centuries. And by the way, one of the main key points that gave them the success was, once again, the mulatto sizing. Because what they would do was they would marry into bloodlines. They would bring in one Hykso invader would come in. He would breed for 100 and 150 years within the upper kingdom of so-called Egypt, which is really called Kemet or Tamaret. And then what they would do is the heir after that breeding would rise to pharaoh. One of the first mixed pharaohs was called Psammetichus. Okay? Psammetichus. Psammetichus was half Greek and half African. And what he did was he decimated the immigration laws that Egyptians put into place. Now, this is around 600, 700 BC. Now, once he broke those immigration laws, the Persians and the Greeks flooded into Egypt. So we got to remember that we knew, just like you were saying, like if we were so smart, yes, we knew that. We knew that these Greeks and these Nordics was barbaric, but we never wanted to kill them or slaughter them. We just wanted them to stay where they were. But of course, they never did that. And then after a while, we have this tendency when we see somebody that looks like me and you see what I'm saying? Like looking at you right now, back in those times, you would be considered a mulatto, just like I would. You see what I'm saying? But both my parents is black. You see what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is, when I saw you, I saw my brother, not knowing that you had a father who was Asiatic, or you had a father who was a Greek. And guess what? Remember, when you come from their societies, you come from a patriarchal society. So in a patriarchal society, they worship the male, they worship the father. So if you have an African mother, you didn't give a damn what your African mother said. You gave a damn what your Greek father said. So even though you look black and you are of African origin, you came into my kingdom with a patriarchal mindset and a Greek mindset. And therefore, you re-enslaved me all over again after you gained my trust. They did this in the Americas too. Because people forget, when Columbus came here, he came here with what's called the conquistadors. The conquistadors were Moors. And the Moors were masters of multiple languages. As a matter of fact, this is where the 5 Latin languages come from. And people don't know that. People think you talking white shit. French, Spanish, Latin. Latin is Moorish dialect. And what they did was, when they came into, by the way, see, now that I can go into so much stuff. Now that we're talking about this, when the Moors came in, the Visigoths was going to war with the Romans. As a matter of fact, when the Moors came in, the Visigoths already destroyed Rome. Rome was already done. It was already old and done. So when they went to war with these Visigoths, understand, who are the Visigoths? The Visigoths are the Nordics, the northern people, the red-haired people, the blonde-haired people, okay? They were illiterate. They couldn't read. And this is well known. The kings of Europe was illiterate. Everybody should know this by now. They were all illiterate. The only people that could read were the people that were of the church. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, my point is, when the Moors came in, they established language. As a matter of fact, Alexander, I'm trying to think of it. Alexander Pukram, I'm trying to think of the name, but he created the Russian language. Because if he didn't create who was a black name, by the way. If he, I just had his name right there. I'm gonna get his name, but he created the Russian language. So if he didn't create the Russian language, the Russians would have been speaking French. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, Russian is not part of the 5 Latin languages. Because remember, the Moors created the Latin languages. Everything outside of Latin languages is created from somewhere else in different dialect. English is a bastardized version. English is German, Greek, and Latin all mixed together in a bowl. That's why you have so many silent letters in the English language. What the hell? How you spell light? L-I-G-H-T. How you say it? Light. You're supposed to say lahat. Lahat. That's why if you listen to Aramaic or Arabic, they pronounce every single syllable in every word. You see what I'm saying? And when you speak like that, you vibrate the chest plate, which actually connects the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. That's why if you look at real Africans, there's over 300 different languages in Africa. If you look at a real pure African, look at their temples. Their temples are swollen.
What was African name before it was named Africa?
Well, see, here's a debatable aspect, because a lot of people want to say that Africa was named after a Roman named Septimus Severus, something like that. But anyway, that's false, because if you break down the word Africa or Africa, A-F within Egyptian or Kemetic dialect means land. Ra, what does Ra mean? I know y'all already know that. What's Ra? Who's Ra?
God.
Okay. Ra's the sun. What's Ka? Ka is spirit. So Af, Ra, Ka, land of sun and spirit. You see? Now, of course, it's spelled with an I and all that in a C, but C's didn't exist. Okay? And what they call the dialect, the different sounds, but certain sounds didn't exist. That's why when we spell things, we didn't have to spell it all. Like if you look at the word Medunetra, it's M-D-U-N-T-R. It's not Medu, E-W-N-E-T-E-R. Like we spell, that's English white people shit. We didn't need all those extra letters, because as soon as we saw those 1, 2, 3 letters, we already knew what it was saying. The same way that if you go even further back, we didn't even need writing or anything, because we were telepathic. This is why the very first writing was what? Symbols. Because when you fall from a telepathic aspect, the very first version of writing is the same symbols that you used to send through your head, brain to brain. So now I draw a feather. What's the feather? Ma'at. What does the feather represent? Justice, equality, blah, 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 blah. That one symbol has 10 different meanings to it. So I could write a feather, I could write an ankh, and I could draw a jet pillar, and that shit could tell you a whole damn story. But now you need 8 to 10 letters to say one word. That's a fall, but see, the European will tell you that our way is primitive because it doesn't follow their way. But our way is the most simplistic, fastest way to deliver a message. Because when I draw that feather with an ankh means life. The feather means ma'at, which means balance. So those two symbols, what did I just say? Balance of life. That's what I just said to you. So we need to understand that they didn't just walk into Africa and take it over. It took centuries upon centuries of invasions. It took centuries upon centuries of us taking handfuls of them in and teaching them, which we always did. We always did. We did it in Americas. We did it in Europe. We did it in Africa.
So how did they multiply?
Yes, and we're doing it right now. We're doing. You know you can talk, right? You don't have to. She over there mouthing words, y'all. She don't know mine essential. We. This is real, y'all. So we got the queen behind the camera.
How did they get to multiply to be?
They bred with you. They bred with you. Cause check it out. Southern Europe is full of what I like to refer to sub-mulattoes. Who's a sub-mulatto? Italian, Spaniard, Portuguese, Armenian.
But that wasn't there at that time that the shit began.
No, because remember, Southern Europe was dominated by you. You are the original Minoan. If you type in Minoan civilization, you'll see black people. If you type in Etruscan, Estrucan, if you type in Etruscan civilization, you'll see you. You see what I'm saying? So what happened is the Nordics came from the top of the hills and the mountains. They murdered the men, raped the women, and then breeded the first generation of mulatto size, which look like Greeks today. And then now you have so-called Greek civilization, but there is no such thing as Greek civilization. You just have a people who came during your time of civilization, took your shit, erased your face, and then put up some nice statues of their white ass. That's all they did. And this is why, and I'll prove it to you, because if there is such thing as a genetic code of civilization embedded within the white man, why did he have a dark age?
I'm gonna stop.
Okay.